What if the most dangerous betrayal in your life isn't what someone else did to you, but what you keep doing to yourself? I want you to sit with that for a second, because there is a hidden relationship pattern that quietly erodes your self-trust. It doesn't scream. It doesn't break doors. It whispers. It convinces you to override your instincts. It tells you to stay when your body is begging you to leave. It teaches you to shrink when your soul wants to expand. And the tragedy, you call it love, this pattern begins when you start abandoning your own truth to keep someone else comfortable. You say yes when you mean no. You silence your anger. You swallow your hurt. You negotiate your boundaries. And every time you do that, your nervous system records it as betrayal. Self-trust is not built in grand, heroic moments. It is built in the smallest, quietest choices, the moment you honor your discomfort instead of dismissing it. But when you repeatedly dismiss it, your body learns a terrifying lesson. I am not safe with myself. And once you no longer feel safe with yourself, every relationship becomes a battlefield. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing the pattern. Because the first step toward healing is naming what has been silently breaking your heart from the inside out. Tell me, how many times have you ignored your own knowing just to avoid being? Too much. Let's go deeper. The hidden pattern that destroys your self-trust is self-abandonment, and it is heartbreakingly common. Self-abandonment doesn't look dramatic. It looks responsible. It looks patient. It looks like being the bigger person. But underneath it is a slow erosion of your inner voice. It starts early. Maybe you learned that love had conditions. That approval required performance. That being accepted meant being agreeable. So you became hyper aware of everyone else's needs and disconnected from your own. You walk into a room and instantly scan it. Who needs what? Who's upset? Who's uncomfortable? And without even realizing it, you adjust. You soften your opinions. You laugh when something isn't funny. You tolerate behavior that hurts you. You convince yourself it's not a big deal. But your body knows it is. Every time you override your discomfort, your nervous system tightens. Every time you silence your intuition, your inner compass weakens. And eventually, you stop trusting your own signals altogether. That's when confusion sets in. You say, I don't know what I want. You say, maybe I'm overreacting. You say, it's probably my fault. And slowly, the relationship dynamic shifts. You begin relying on the other person to define reality, to tell you what's true, to tell you what's reasonable, to tell you what's acceptable. That is not connection. That is the beginning of losing yourself. And the cost of losing yourself is always your self-trust. Here's where it becomes devastating. When you repeatedly abandon yourself, you begin to doubt your own perception. And once you doubt your perception, you are vulnerable to anything. You feel hurt, but you immediately question it. You feel disrespected, but you minimize it. You feel uneasy, but you explain it away. You become an expert at rewriting your own emotional experience. Instead of saying, that didn't feel good, you say, maybe I'm too sensitive. Instead of saying, that crossed a boundary, you say, they didn't mean it. Instead of saying, I deserve better, you say, I should try harder. This is the moment self-trust begins to fracture. Because self-trust is the belief that your feelings are valid data, not overreactions, not inconveniences, data. And when someone consistently challenges your reality, even subtly, and you participate in that challenge, something inside you begins to collapse. You start outsourcing your truth. You wait for reassurance before making decisions. You look for permission to feel what you feel. You need someone else to confirm that something was wrong before you believe it. And that creates a terrifying dependency, not just on them, but on anyone who seems more confident than you. But here's the truth that will change everything. Your body registers danger long before your mind makes excuses. That tightness in your chest, that exhaustion after certain conversations, that anxiety before seeing someone, that is wisdom. The question is, are you willing to listen to it again? Let me tell you something that might sting a little. If love feels like constant performance, it isn't love, it's survival. When you lose self-trust, relationships become stages. You are always adjusting, monitoring, perfecting. You become hypervigilant. You study tone shifts. You analyze text messages. You rehearse conversations in your head before you dare to speak. You think you're being careful. What you're actually being is afraid. Afraid of disappointing. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of being too emotional. Afraid of being left. So you curate yourself. You edit your reactions. You water down your anger. You package your needs in apology. And every time you do that, your nervous system burns energy trying to maintain safety. That's why you're exhausted. It's not that you're weak. It's that you are carrying the invisible labor of emotional self-suppression. You are constantly asking, how do I say this so they won't pull away? Instead of, is this safe for me to say? Real love does not require you to betray your own experience to maintain connection. If you are chronically tired in a relationship, it may not be because love is hard. It may be because you are performing instead of belonging. Belonging is different. Belonging says, I can show up messy. I can say the wrong thing. I can express discomfort, and I will not be punished for it. If you cannot do that, your body knows. And your body is getting tired of pretending. Let's talk about the phrase that has silenced more people than almost anything else. I don't want to be too much. Too emotional, too sensitive, too needy, too intense, too honest. Somewhere along the way, you learned that your full expression threatened connection. So you began trimming yourself down. You softened your reactions. You delayed difficult conversations. You convinced yourself that having needs was burdensome. But here's the truth. When you label yourself as too much, what you're really saying is, I am afraid that my authenticity will cost me love. And that fear is powerful. So instead of honoring your anger, you rationalize it. Instead of expressing hurt, you swallow it. Instead of asking for reassurance, you act like you don't need it. And each time you do that, something subtle happens. You teach yourself that your emotions are dangerous, but emotions are not dangerous. Disconnection is. When you exile parts of yourself to maintain attachment, your inner world becomes divided. One part of you is desperate for closeness. The other part is screaming, why are you ignoring me? That internal split is what destroys self-trust. Because self-trust requires integration. It requires you to say, my anger belongs, my sadness belongs, my desire belongs, my boundaries belong. You are not too much. You are uncontained in spaces that cannot hold you. And the moment you stop shrinking to fit, you begin the radical, terrifying, beautiful act of coming home to yourself. Let's tell the truth about boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are clarity. They are the line where your dignity begins. And every time you ignore a boundary, even a small one, your body keeps score. When you say, it's fine, but it's not fine, but it's not fine. When you say, don't worry about it, but you're quietly hurting when you allow behavior that feels off because you don't want conflict. You are sending yourself a message, my comfort is negotiable. At first, it feels harmless. You think you're being flexible, understanding, loving. But over time, resentment grows. And resentment is a signal. It is grief over the boundaries you did not enforce. Here's the painful part. The person crossing your boundary may not even know they're doing it. Because you never made it visible. You never trusted yourself enough to say, this doesn't work for me. So instead of addressing it, you internalize it. You tell yourself you're dramatic. You question your reaction. You try harder to be easy. But being easy at the cost of your integrity will fracture you. Self-trust is built when your words match your internal experience. When you say that hurt, instead of pretending it didn't. When you say I need space, instead of forcing yourself to stay. Every boundary you honor rebuilds trust with yourself. Every boundary you betray weakens it. And the healing begins the moment you decide that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is sacred. Now here's the question that really matters. If this hurts so much, why do we keep doing it? Why do we keep choosing relationships where we have to shrink? Why do we keep silencing ourselves? Why do we keep abandoning our own truth? Because the pattern feels familiar. And familiarity feels like safety, even when it's painful. If you grew up in an environment where love required performance, where conflict felt dangerous, where expressing emotion led to withdrawal or punishment, then your nervous system learned something powerful. Attachment requires self-sacrifice. So when you meet someone who triggers that same dance, unpredictability, emotional distance, subtle disapproval, your body doesn't say this is unhealthy. It says, I know how to survive here, and survival can feel like chemistry. You mistake anxiety for passion. You mistake inconsistency for depth. You mistake emotional unavailability for mystery. But what's actually happening is repetition. You are trying to master an old wound. You are trying to win the love you didn't fully receive before. You are trying to finally be chosen without having to betray yourself. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot heal abandonment by abandoning yourself again. Every time you override your instincts to maintain connection, you reinforce the old story. And healing requires something terrifying. It requires choosing yourself, even when it risks losing someone else. That's where the real shift begins. Healing does not begin with a dramatic exit. It begins with a quiet decision, a decision to listen. Rebuilding self-trust is not about becoming louder. It's about becoming more honest. It's about noticing the subtle signals your body has been sending you for years and finally responding. That tightness in your stomach pause, that wave of exhaustion after a conversation reflect, that spark of anger you instantly suppress, explore it. Instead of dismissing yourself, get curious. Ask, what am I feeling? What do I need? What feels true? Right now, self-trust grows in micro moments. The moment you say, actually, that didn't sit well with me. The moment you ask for clarification instead of assuming you're wrong. The moment you allow silence instead of rushing to fix tension. It will feel uncomfortable at first. Your nervous system will panic. It will whisper, this is risky. You might lose them. And you might. But here's what you gain: alignment. When your inner voice and your outer behavior start matching, something powerful happens. You feel grounded, clear, solid. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop obsessing over how you were perceived. You stop betraying your instincts for approval because you know something deeper now. You know that the safest relationship you will ever have is the one you build with yourself, and that relationship is worth protecting fiercely. Here is the part no one wants to say out loud. If you begin trusting yourself again, you will disappoint people. You will disappoint the version of you that survived by pleasing. You will disappoint the people who benefited from your silence. You will disappoint anyone who mistook your self-abandonment for kindness. And that will feel terrifying. Because for so long, your identity may have been built around being dependable, easygoing, low maintenance, strong, the one who understands, the one who forgives, the one who doesn't make things complicated. But healing requires a new identity. The one who speaks, the one who names discomfort, the one who says no without a 5-minute apology attached to it. And when you do this, some people will push back. They may call you different, difficult, dramatic, cold. What they are actually experiencing is the loss of access to the version of you that overfunctioned for them. Let that sink in. Their discomfort does not mean you are wrong. It means the dynamic is changing. Self-trust is not built by being universally liked. It is built by being internally aligned. And alignment often looks like courage, quiet, steady courage to stand in your truth even when someone frowns at it. You are not responsible for managing everyone's emotional reaction to your boundaries. You are responsible for not betraying yourself, and that responsibility, that is freedom. This is where the journey becomes sacred. Healing the hidden pattern that destroys your self-trust is not a sprint. It is a slow, intentional return, homecoming to yourself. It begins with small, deliberate choices, noticing when you are shrinking, speaking your truth even when it trembles, honoring your boundaries even when it feels risky. Each act is a declaration. I am safe with myself. My experience matters. My needs are valid. And with each choice, self-trust grows stronger. It grows resilient. It grows fierce. You start to recognize the difference between love that nourishes you and love that asks you to vanish, You start to see people clearly, not through the fog of self-doubt, but with the clarity of someone who knows their worth. You will stumble. You will doubt. You will feel the old fear whispering. You'll be alone if you speak up. But speak up anyway. That voice is the echo of old patterns. It does not belong to the present you, the you who is learning to stand whole and unshakable. And here's the miracle: the more you honor yourself, the more the world will mirror it back. Relationships transform. Conversations deepen. Connection becomes real, not transactional. And the quiet confidence of knowing you can trust yourself becomes the anchor for everything else. So step into this path with courage. Protect your inner truth like it is the most sacred thing, because it is. Come home to yourself. You are enough. You always were. And from that place, every relationship, every choice, every moment becomes an act of love. First for yourself, and then inevitably for the world around you. The path to healing is not about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding the unshakable, unbreakable you. Your journey starts now.